Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. If you like what I do, please give this video a like and subscribe. Make sure to click the bell notification so you don't miss an episode. Thanks to these people for letting me use their assets. Spoilers ahead for the following games. Now, let's begin. Much time has passed since the era of the sky, the time when the Hylians returned to the surface. The other races of the surface would come to unite under Hylia's chosen people, and thus establish the Hyrule royal family. There were rumors that they had the power of the gods at their disposal, a relic that they safeguarded, locked away in a mystical realm only they could access. But there was another rumor, one that stated that the power had been absorbed by the soul of their princess, and even now continues to be passed down from mother to daughter. Over time, talk of a golden relic possessing the powers of the gods would be reduced to a single solitary belief, that the bloodline of Goddess Hylia herself flowed through the princess. This was the key to the Hyrule royal family's supremacy. One part fear, one part respect, and one part might. Using that, they would rule and protect their lands. Beyond those lands, though, there were others who craved those lush green fields. And so, we must now talk about the Gerudo. They were desert dwellers, a tribe of women who always produced daughters except for on rare occasion. Once every 100 years, a Gerudo male would be born, and as their culture dictates, they would make that male their king. One of these men was named Ganondorf, a cunning and powerful man, and one who had his eyes set on the kingdom of Hyrule. Unknown to him or his people is that there was a darkness inside of him, an incarnation of hatred from an ancient demon lord named Demise. Did the Gerudo King engage in these actions because of that unknown taint on his soul? Even if that were the case, he still desired to help his people. He was their king and wanted to improve their lives. And so he crafted a plan to take the royal family's power from them, all for himself. The Gerudo King considered many options for this. Advised by his mothers, he would come to realize an all-out war would be foolish, for a combination of the Hylians, the Zora, Gorons, and Rito, not to mention the Shadow Folk, were beyond the means of besting through combat alone. If only there was some way to infiltrate and steal their power. But alas, that power was a part of the royal bloodline. If it had been bound to an object or idols, a plan could have been made to access and steal it from them. Instead, the Gerudo King had to come up with a different, sinister idea, and one that had been in plain sight all along. The Gerudo King would not play his hand at treachery, nor would he try to coerce the royal family's allies. He would instead do what the Gerudo were known for. He would engage in the act of seduction. Ganondorf was a powerful man trained by his mothers to be a warlock, to be even a warlord amongst others, but also to be a charmer when needed. If the Gerudo King were to marry the princess and produce a child, then the unusual trait of the Gerudo people would ensure that the child was born of the Gerudo herself. The power of the goddess bloodline would then be passed on from mother to daughter, his daughter, and then the power would be his. The Gerudo King began his diplomatic venture, coming to the kingdom and even swearing fealty to their king. Was he lying? Perhaps. He was aiming to gain their power, and once under his control, he would have the means of doing whatever he wanted. The Gerudo King was a strong man, But he also had a hidden soft side to him, and using that he would work his charms on the princess to help persuade her. He would tell her of the Gerudo legends, of the goddess of the sands, and how their people built elaborate statues to honor their greatest leaders, with the final 8th one he had hoped to be built for their child. Things were going well for the Gerudo king, but then one night the princess had a vision. Venturing out onto the balcony, she saw her future husband, but he did not appear as a man of the desert seeking peace, but instead under the light of a red blood moon. He appeared as a horrible demon who was there to take her kingdom. Not just her kingdom, but her life. The princess was shaken from the vision, and so she went to go see the sages of the kingdom. The very same sages who had been established long ago, shortly after the formal founding of the kingdom. Speaking with their most enlightened sage, he would tell the princess an ancient story of the demon lord demise. It would include the founding of the kingdom, and the holy tears that the sages each possessed. After much discussion, the princess became confident about her vision, convinced that it came from Hylia herself. With that determination, they colluded together to stop the Gerudo king, believing that as long as he existed, the threat of demise would loom over them for eternity. They also knew that killing the man would only release that hatred back into the world, for it to one day reappear. And so, they devised a means to bind the Gerudo man in a state where that couldn't happen, someplace between life and death itself. The plan was launched, and just days before the wedding, the battle took place. The Gerudo king had been lured to a place nobody would dare go, a ruin of the old people who once populated the surface of the world before they mysteriously vanished. She lured him here with promises of knowledge, of stories of their kingdom. But what awaited him was only betrayal. He was infuriated by this act, for while he was attempting to trick his foes into marriage, so he could ultimately disarm them and take their power, his intentions were more than simple conquest. He truly did desire to help his people by bringing them out of the desert, to improve their quality of life. And while it may have started as a farce, he truly did develop affection for his future wife. With all of that ruined by this act of betrayal, the battle took place while the sages used the full power of the Tears of the Kingdom. During the battle, so overwhelmed with rage, the demonic power of the man would manifest, for the Gerudo king would not fall easily. And yet, he fell all the same. Bound in the ruin, the power of the Tears of the Kingdom were used to do so. They trapped his soul using an ancient Zonai artifact. The Gerudo king has been left there ever since. The royal family could not reveal the truth of what they had done, and so they allowed a belief to spread that he simply abandoned his people, along with the rumors that he became possessed by a demon. Much later, that rumor would grow into a belief that he was the start of the calamity, a rumor that contains kernels of truth but is only half at best. The construction of the 8th statue surrounding these events was halted, and for a time the relationship between the desert tribe and the kingdom became strained. The princess would remember the man who charmed her, the man that she had betrayed, but her duty would force her to move on. Eventually she would wed another, pass her powers down to her own Princess Zelda, and the cycle of the royal family would continue. As for the cycle of the Gerudo people, that however had been disrupted, as the last Gerudo king lay forgotten, tormented, all while that demonic power inside of him would continue to grow. Someday it would be released, and someday he hoped to use that power to wipe away the kingdom who had betrayed him and all of its allies from the face of the world. In this version of history, the Gerudo King didn't do much wrong. He was ultimately set on conquest, but through diplomatic means, through courtship and marriage. Perhaps he had other plans in case that didn't work out. I wouldn't be surprised if abduction wasn't in the cards, given precisely how the bloodline of the goddess is passed down. I believe that is far too adult of a topic for a squeaky clean Nintendo game, don't you? Oh right, maybe we should avert our attention away from Bowser Jr., shall we? This version of events portrays a tragic tale of a man who might have done great things with the Queen, but fate would ultimately ruin this by happenstance of Ganondorf being the new incarnation of Demise. Elsewhere in the Zelda timeline, they speak of a divine prank. Well, perhaps this situation could be called one as well. I understand that I have crafted a sympathetic version of Ganondorf here. It stems from the belief that Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom have their own continuities separated from the rest of the timeline. I'm waiting to see how Tears of the Kingdom's story plays out before I go on to make a hard video on that topic. But just know that I believe this Ganondorf exists around the same time as the incarnation we would see in Ocarina of Time, in an alternate set of events where the Triforce was not stored in the Sacred Realm, but instead kept within the princess and the royal family. Regarding the judgment of this hypothetical Ganondorf, if I were to judge him solely on the tragic events I have outlined here, I would judge him as redeemable. However, we know that there is more to his events than his tragic betrayal. He used the calamity and desired to wipe out the entire kingdom that had wronged him, even after thousands of years of anguish. His stance is sympathetic, but his actions are still horrendous. Even in a best-case scenario of his past, his actions would be disproportionate. It would be one thing if he escaped his prison and walked away. It is another to escape one's prison and strike for revenge. There has been a lot of death because of Ganondorf, and so I find the last Gerudo King from Tears of the Kingdom irredeemable. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, so I tried something new today. It might become the new structure of Judgment Time. I do like telling stories, so from now on I might just craft a story for whoever is being judged. I have to admit that this was a bit of a struggle to put out, and I ended up doing several rewrites before I could finally bring myself to record it. In the case of Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf, this story is clearly more in the realm of fiction, but I will do a more factual episode on him after the game has come out. Well, after I've had time to digest the game, that is. Anyhow, what did you guys think of the structure of this episode? How about my speculation as to the story of Ganondorf? I really like the idea that he was trying to steal the Triforce through marriage. It might have been a little too Game of Thrones, though. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And this channel is supported by Patreon. Patreon is the backbone of many content creators on YouTube, and given that I am still small, I could really use that support. I'm crafting 4 different styles of programs on this channel, and choosing to go that route instead of chasing the big trends. And so, for those of you who are already supporting me, even if it is just by liking and subscribing to the channel, let me give you a huge thank you. If you join my Patreon, you will gain access to my Discord server where you can talk to me more directly. I'll be taking input on upcoming episodes, including polls for who should be judged. I really enjoy getting feedback on my topics and bouncing my ideas off people. So please, come and join the fun. Speaking of which, I have a new patron to announce. Joining my $15 tier is Annie Wolf. Thank you so much for helping me out. That's all I have for you today. I'm planning to stream some Breath of the Wild, so I can get used to streaming in general. Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner after all. If you see me doing so, please join in and chat. Until then, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.